Robert Redford was one of the greatest names in modern Hollywood. The 89-year-old actor died early this morning at his home in Utah. That's according to his publicist.
Robert Redford was more than a Hollywood icon. He was a symbol of charm, authenticity, and rebellion against the industry's darker currents.
When you see that Mr. Coffee machine over there, I like it strong.
But after his death, the mansion he left behind became the center of a mystery no one expected. What the FBI uncovered within its walls has sparked shock, suspicion, and endless questions about the man we thought we knew. So, was Redford a silent whistleblower, or part of the machine he fought against? Grab a seat as we reveal the truth. The legend and legacy of Robert Redford. The news broke like a thunderclap. Robert Redford was dead.
Legendary actor and director Robert Redford has passed away. He was 89 years old.
For decades, he had been a towering presence in Hollywood, a man whose charm and quiet determination shaped not only cinema, but the cultural conscience of America. His passing was framed as the end of an era, yet whispers suggested there was more to the story. What secrets did he take with him? And why did federal agents suddenly become so interested in the mansion he left behind? Before the headlines turned cryptic, Redford's story had been one of relentless rise. Born in Santa Monica in 1936, he was not handed stardom on a silver platter. His early years were marked by hardship and personal struggle, but his determination pulled him toward art and performance. What began as an interest in painting and design transformed into a career in acting after he studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Redford quickly became known for his sharp looks, effortless charisma, and the subtle intensity he brought to every role. The breakthrough came in the late 1960s when he starred in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid alongside Paul Newman.
Butch Cassidy's hole-in-the-wall gang, that's me. You want Harvey to do your planning for you? You want him to do your thinking for you? You want him to run things?
The film's massive success cemented him as one of Hollywood's brightest leading men. Then came The Sting, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture, followed by his unforgettable role in All the President's Men, a film that reflected his deeper interest in stories that challenged authority and revealed uncomfortable truths. But Redford was never content to be just another screen idol. By the late 1970s, he made the bold leap into directing. His debut, Ordinary People, stunned the industry by winning the Academy Award for Best Director, an achievement that rebranded him as both a creative powerhouse and a storyteller of substance. This was the turning point that shifted his career from celebrated actor to a force behind the camera. Beyond cinema, his life was defined by activism. He was among the earliest major stars to call out the environmental dangers facing the planet, long before it became fashionable in Hollywood. He also grew increasingly disillusioned with the industry itself, the politics, the exploitation, the hidden power games. That dissatisfaction fueled one of his greatest legacies, the creation of the Sundance Institute and the Sundance Film Festival, platforms that gave independent voices a chance to thrive outside the studio system. Yet, behind his activism and tireless push for change, Redford carried a private burden. He had seen things in the film industry that disturbed him, truths too explosive to share openly. He hinted at them in interviews, in the types of films he chose to make, and in his restless energy to carve out spaces of independence. Little did the world know, some of those secrets were locked away, waiting to be unearthed after his death. But what truths could be so dangerous that even Robert Redford chose to hide them away? Stay with us. His private world is about to unravel. Secrets hidden. In plain sight, Robert Redford's mansion had always been a place of fascination, admired for its elegance, but rarely open to the public eye. Nestled in the quiet landscapes of Utah near Sundance,
you've had quite a few outlawish films. I mean, the best, most famous one, of course, is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
The estate was more than just a home. It was a fortress of solitude, a place where the Hollywood icon could retreat from the chaos of stardom. With its rustic wood beams, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the mountains, and sprawling grounds that blended seamlessly with nature, the mansion symbolized Redford's love for privacy, and the natural world. Yet behind its warm architecture and carefully curated beauty, something darker lingered, secrets hidden in plain sight. For years, whispers had floated among staff and visitors. Some recalled nights when unmarked cars pulled up the long gravel driveway well past midnight, their headlights dimmed before disappearing behind the gated entrance. Others spoke of rooms where they were never allowed to clean, spaces that remained permanently locked. A gardener once mentioned the strange sound of drilling echoing from the basement long after construction on the property had supposedly been completed. Individually, these details meant little. Together, they painted the picture of a man who guarded more than just his personal privacy. The most startling discovery came not long after his passing. While sorting through his belongings, a housekeeper stumbled upon an odd stack of documents tucked away behind the false back of a wardrobe. At first glance, they appeared to be old contracts and letters, but the language was cryptic, references to operations, protection, and files marked restricted. Confused, she alerted Redford's family, who initially dismissed the find as leftover Hollywood memorabilia. But curiosity quickly turned into unease when they noticed that the papers bore no connection to his film career. Instead, they hinted at dealings with powerful figures far beyond the entertainment industry. As family members continued sorting the estate, they came across a locked room concealed behind a sliding bookcase in Redford's study. The room contained only a heavy steel safe bolted to the floor. No one could explain its presence nor why Redford had kept it hidden for decades. The very existence of the safe contradicted the openness he projected publicly. Why would a man devoted to art, activism, and storytelling go to such lengths to protect something in his own home? The mansion, once thought of as a sanctuary, had become a puzzle box. Every new discovery raised uncomfortable questions. Was Robert Redford protecting himself from the industry he had tried to reform? Or was he safeguarding something that, if revealed, could shatter the legacy he built? The house that once represented peace now stood at the heart of a growing storm of suspicion. But why would Redford's private sanctuary hold secrets that could shake his legacy? Stay with us. The truth is only beginning to surface. FBI show up. What prompted the raid? The whispers about Robert Redford's hidden life might have remained little more than family gossip if not for a single anonymous tip. According to reports later leaked to the press, a journalist working on a piece about Hollywood's secret ties to politics had stumbled across a trail that pointed directly to Redford's estate. Financial records, buried deep in offshore accounts, hinted at strange transactions, payments that didn't align with the actor's clean, public image. The sums weren't astronomical, but the destinations were peculiar. Shell companies linked to obscure lobbying groups, anonymous trusts connected to government contractors, and even transfers tied to foreign accounts in countries notorious for secrecy. At first, the journalist thought it was a mistake. Why would Robert Redford, Hollywood's golden boy, environmental crusader, and founder of the Sundance Institute, be tied to such entities? But the more she dug, the stranger it became.
I said, well, yeah, I can do that, but I'm much more drawn to the Sundance Kid.
When her findings reached the ears of a former FBI contact, alarms were raised. Within weeks, a confidential investigation began, culminating in the most unexpected of operations, a federal raid on the estate of one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. The raid itself was carried out quietly, almost surgically. In the early hours of the morning, black SUVs rolled up the long driveway of Redford's Utah mansion. Agents in dark jackets moved swiftly, their breath visible in the crisp mountain air. The warrant was broad, citing evidence of financial misconduct and possession of restricted materials. Few outside the operation knew the full scope of what they were looking for, but the agents arrived with precision, as if they already knew where to go. Inside, the house was eerily silent. Family members had already vacated the estate after Redford's death, leaving only staff to watch in stunned disbelief as federal officers methodically searched each room. They bypassed ordinary belongings, photographs, awards, scripts, and headed straight for the study. It was there that they uncovered the concealed room behind the sliding bookcase. the same room that had puzzled Redford's family days earlier. The safe inside was pried open with industrial tools, revealing what would later be described as a trove of sensitive material. Among the items seized were unidentified videotapes, their labels stripped or marked only with single letters. There were also thick folders of contracts, some linked to film productions, others far more cryptic, referencing names and organizations outside the entertainment industry. Perhaps most unsettling were several envelopes stamped with insignias suggesting government classification. How had these documents found their way into Robert Redford's private safe? Leaked accounts suggested the tapes contained more than just behind-the-scenes Hollywood footage. Rumors swirled that they documented closed-door meetings between studio executives and political operatives, discussions about controlling narratives in films, and even agreements to suppress certain stories from reaching the public. The contracts hinted at backroom deals tying the film industry to government-backed cultural influence campaigns. If true, it would mean Redford hadn't just been a witness to Hollywood's underbelly. He had kept evidence of it, quietly locked away in his home. The contradiction was staggering. Robert Redford, the man who built his reputation on authenticity, activism, and the independence of storytelling, appeared to have harbored secrets that undermined the very values he championed. Some speculated that he had gathered the material as a form of protection, proof to safeguard himself against powerful enemies. Others believed he intended to reveal it one day but never found the right moment, or perhaps feared the fallout would be too great. News of the raid spread quickly, though the FBI refused to release details. The mansion was sealed off, agents carrying boxes of evidence into their vehicles under the flash of camera lights from distant reporters. What was supposed to be a quiet investigation had become a public spectacle, sparking confusion, disbelief, and a flood of conspiracy theories. For the public, the shock was profound. How could Robert Redford, the face of Hollywood integrity, be connected to secret files, unmarked tapes, and covert financial channels? Was he complicit in a larger scheme, or had he spent decades trying to expose it from within? The raid left more questions than answers, and as agents drove away from the estate, it was clear. The truth hidden in Redford's mansion had the potential to rewrite not just his legacy, but the history of Hollywood itself. So what did the FBI really uncover, and why the secrecy? Stay tuned. The revelations would shake Hollywood to its core. The revelation: what was found? The FBI's search of Robert Redford's mansion produced results that were far more explosive than anyone could have imagined. At first, officials spoke cautiously, describing the seized items only as sensitive materials. But as leaks trickled out, a chilling picture began to form, one that threatened not only Redford's carefully cultivated legacy, but also the very foundations of Hollywood. The most startling discovery was a collection of hidden videotapes stored in the steel safe. Unlike ordinary film reels or behind-the-scenes footage, these tapes appeared to be covert recordings. Early reports claimed they featured private meetings between some of the most powerful executives in the entertainment industry. The grainy images and muffled conversations revealed discussions about manipulating public narratives, silencing dissenting voices, and controlling the careers of actors and directors who challenged the status quo. One tape allegedly showed studio heads conspiring with political operatives to bury a film project that exposed government misconduct. Another suggested a system of surveillance on actors who had spoken out against corruption. These tapes alone were enough to send shockwaves through the industry, but the documents found alongside them made the revelations even more unsettling. Thick folders contained correspondence between film executives and political figures, some stretching back decades. The letters outlined secret agreements. Studios would shape certain storylines in exchange for government favors, while politicians promised tax breaks and regulatory leniency in return. It was a blueprint of collusion, a roadmap showing how Hollywood's storytelling power had been quietly weaponized. But perhaps the most confounding element was Redford's own role in all of this. Was he complicit in the cover-ups, benefiting from his insider status? Or was he a reluctant archivist, secretly gathering evidence against the very system that disgusted him. On one hand, his public persona had been that of a reformer, a man who championed environmental causes, supported independent filmmakers, and criticized corruption. On the other hand, the meticulous way he had stored these materials suggested intent. He wasn't stumbling upon scraps, he was collecting, categorizing, and hiding them. Speculation swirled. Some believed Redford had planned to one day release the evidence, blowing the whistle on the industry's darkest secrets. Others argued he had kept the files as insurance, a safeguard against enemies who might try to destroy him. Still, others suggested a more troubling possibility, that Redford had grown too entangled in the web of power, unable or unwilling to break free. The fallout from the revelations was immediate. Names began circulating, though the FBI remained tight-lipped. Reporters speculated about blacklists, secret payouts, and the quiet ruin of careers. Rumors claimed that certain A-list stars had been spied on without their knowledge, while independent directors who questioned authority had been systematically blocked from opportunities. If proven true, these practices would not just tarnish reputations, they could lead to criminal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and illegal surveillance. For Redford's admirers, the revelations cut deep. This was a man celebrated for his authenticity, his refusal to bow to industry pressure, and his creation of the Sundance Film Festival as a haven for independent voices.
But early in his career, he worried about being typecast as just a pretty face.
To imagine him harboring such explosive secrets raised painful questions. Had he betrayed the very ideals he championed? Or had he borne the burden of truth in silence, fearing that speaking out would only end in destruction? For himself? And for those he cared about? Emotionally, the weight of the discovery reframed his legacy. If Redford had been complicit, his image as Hollywood's conscience would collapse overnight, replaced by the portrait of a man who looked the other way. But if he had been an unspoken guardian of truth, preserving the evidence until the right moment, then perhaps his silence was less about betrayal and more about strategy, a desperate hope that one day the truth would find its way to light. In either case, the revelation ensured one thing: Robert Redford's name would forever be linked not only to his cinematic achievements, but also to a mystery that blurred the line between integrity and compromise. The tapes and documents had turned his mansion from a sanctuary into a vault of secrets, and their exposure would ripple far beyond his lifetime, reshaping how Hollywood and the public viewed both art and power, career turnaround, and activism. If the revelations in Robert Redford's mansion cast doubt on his legacy, they also provided a new lens to understand his sudden career shifts decades earlier. To the public, Redford's decision to pivot from being Hollywood's golden boy to a director and activist seemed like an artistic evolution.
Robert Redford was one of the last links to the golden age of Hollywood.
But in light of what was later uncovered, his choices looked more like a man reacting to truths too heavy to ignore. Insiders recalled that in the late 1970s, Redford grew restless with the roles he was offered. Though he could have coasted as a leading man for years, he began chasing projects that carried political weight. Films like All the President's Men, which dissected corruption and demanded accountability. Privately, friends said he had become deeply disillusioned with the entertainment world's hidden alliances. The documents later found in his mansion suggest that by then, he may already have been aware of the collusion between studios and political figures. His career turnaround was not just creative, it was moral, driven by a desire to shine light in places most preferred to keep dark. This same drive fueled his activism. Redford championed independent filmmaking, pouring resources into the Sundance Institute to create a space where voices outside the control of powerful studios could thrive. He supported environmental causes long before they became mainstream, framing his activism as a way to challenge industries built on exploitation and silence. Looking back, it was as if his activism was his way of fighting back, not directly with the evidence he had hidden, but by nurturing platforms that would allow truth-tellers to bypass the machinery of censorship. Of course, such a path came with consequences. Rumors of behind-the-scenes pressure dogged him. Studio heads grew wary of his outspoken views, and political figures bristled at his willingness to back films that questioned authority. Some even suggested he was quietly blacklisted from certain projects, forced to rely on his directing and producing work when acting opportunities mysteriously dried up. Yet Redford never backed down, even as the resistance around him grew. Today, his legacy is seen through two prisms: the celebrated actor who became one of cinema's most respected figures, and the quiet whistleblower who carried the burden of Hollywood's darkest secrets. Whether complicit or courageous, Robert Redford's career became inseparable from his activism.
Legendary star Robert Redford briefly came out of retirement to play a prison inmate on AMC's Dark Winds.
A reminder that the fight for truth often comes at a personal cost. But was Redford a silenced truth-teller or a hidden player? Stay tuned. The next revelation will change everything. Aftermath and what it means for Hollywood. The aftermath of the FBI raid on Robert Redford's mansion was unlike anything Hollywood had faced before. For decades, Redford had been regarded as one of the last great moral figures in the industry, a man whose films and activism embodied integrity. Now his name was tied to files, tapes, and contracts that suggested collusion, corruption, and surveillance stretching far beyond the movie business. The public was divided. Some fans refused to believe he had been complicit, arguing that the evidence showed a man gathering proof, not participating in schemes. To them, Redford was a silent guardian, preserving dangerous truths he never had the chance, or perhaps the courage, to reveal. Others saw betrayal, a star who built his career on authenticity while secretly protecting the very system he claimed to resist. For Hollywood, the revelations forced an uncomfortable reckoning. Studio executives scrambled to issue vague denials, distancing themselves from the documents. Political figures named in the files avoided comment, while the FBI itself remained deliberately silent, citing ongoing investigations. Yet, the silence only fueled more speculation: whose careers had been built or destroyed.
Despite Redford's leading man status, his life was marred by tragedy.
By the hidden machinery Redford had documented. How deep did the ties between film and politics really go? The scandal also reshaped Redford's legacy. No longer could he be seen solely as the charismatic actor or visionary director. His memory became entangled with the role of whistleblower, or possible conspirator. Either way, his story underscored the uneasy truth that even those who seemed to stand above corruption were, at the very least, drawn into its orbit. In the end, Robert Redford's mansion did more than reveal secrets. It shattered illusions about Hollywood's purity, and for the industry, the question lingered: how many more vaults of truth remain hidden in plain sight? So what do you think? Was Robert Redford carefully preserving evidence to one day expose Hollywood's hidden corruption, leaving clues behind in his mansion? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more.